Apple started with the Mac being different fonts. Steve Jobs was just obsessed with different fonts.
Is AI replacing the entry-level jobs?
It depends upon what entry-level jobs you're talking. There are some entry-level jobs that are going to be replaced.
Internet has evolved so much from Google to Claude. Is the traditional business degree dead?
The traditional business degree that does not incorporate AI across the different business fields is not as useful as it used to be.
Tell me something, how 99% of your students get jobs. And what's missing in that 1%?
Let's talk about the 99% first.
Today's time, if a student is not using AI or learning AI, are they falling behind?
Yes.
But a lot of us are becoming slave to AI.
I agree.
Is that bad?
I mean, it's bad, but that doesn't have to be the case.
Hello Ross, welcome to the Gut Feel Show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm really enjoying visiting India. We have a lot of alums here and connecting with them and hearing their stories and prospective students also.
I want to begin with something which is right now the buzz of the time, which is AI. The biggest concern and the biggest change in technology. What do you think about AI?
Well, it's really building upon, advances in technology, analytics, predictive modeling, and the use of digital information and analytics for decision making. And what it's really done is put it on steroids and making it broadly available and enabling people to apply the power of analytics and technology on an everyday basis. So it really, the tools are advancing and their application are advancing at a pace that nobody really anticipated that it would be this fast.
Okay. Tell me some more thing, like, is AI replacing the entry-level jobs?
I don't think so. And it depends upon what entry-level jobs you're talking. There are some entry-level jobs that are going to be replaced. Jobs that are repetitive, jobs that don't require strong customer interface and response and a back and forth. For positions where, empathy is required, understanding individuals and being able to specialize based upon that understanding of people's needs and responding to that. If it's just repetitive task, back and forth, that's going to be replaced. If they're pretty simplistic things to analyze, that is going to be replaced.
So is it sort of keeping redundancy on the side and letting being people more creative? Is it like that?
I think that's a big aspect of it. I think creativity is one aspect. I think it's letting people be more human. The human side is going to be increasingly important because the AI tool is not human. It doesn't respond to looking somebody in the face, looking at different elements of that interaction, try to, have a feel for that person and maybe respond with a question that's not a program question or one that's been asked before, but one that's really insightful and creative and understanding that maybe the questions you've asked before, the responses you've asked before aren't the right ones for this individual.
So tell me something, because a lot of people are overwhelmed with AI. Can you help them understand this better? What is the human aspect, or what is it that the opportunities that will open up for them with AI?
Well, it could be very enabling for individuals. So it's powerful. It's a tool that they could use. An example of that is using AI to get access to information. So AI, you could think about AI as being embedded knowledge, and that embedded knowledge could be like the information you get off Wikipedia, or right off an internet site. It could be embedded knowledge in the sense that it's data that's then analyzed by an AI tool to create predictive models and then to tell you what your response should be. So, example, when you're driving a car and you want to find out what's the fastest way to go from A to Z, it's looking at the position, it's looking at traffic, it's looking at historical traffic patterns, and it's suggesting a route that you should go. And it's as real time as possible. But when you're an actual driver and you've been on that road many times and you see the conditions changing, you might adjust and use your own creativity in the sense and information and eyeballing things in real time to make adjustments. But that information that AI is giving you based upon the data that's in the model and historical is giving you insights that you really wouldn't have. But then you're building upon that. That's the example I gave is maybe not creative, but it's using that human element and your human insights to make a decision. But that decision is based upon a lot of information that AI is providing. You take it to the next level.
So it's doing that multitasking for you.
It's doing that multitasking, taking embedded knowledge and information. And that embedded knowledge is getting increasingly sophisticated and more real time. And the thing is, how do you build upon that to create additional value to that embedded information that AI is giving you access to?
Tell me something in today's time. If a student is not using AI or learning AI, are they falling behind?
Yes, they are. Because, think about when the internet first came available and the access to information, vast amount of information where you don't have to go to a library, you don't have to go to a newspaper, you don't have to figure out, where that book is, where that newspaper is it current or not? It's on the internet. And now what AI does is it searches across the internet much faster than a traditional browser does. And it actually cues you to say, maybe you should ask this question next. Maybe you should ask that question next. So it's advancing what would have been 20 years ago would have been a very, innovative tool to have a browser, to have Google search. And now you use AI, use Claude instead of you use Google search. And it just takes it to the next level. But you're still taking that information to figure out what I should do with it, what decision do I have to make. So you're still the problem solver. You see, first you're identifying the problem, you're using AI to get insights and information and analysis. Now it's including analysis, but then you're ultimately making the decision what to do with that.
So basically you are the leader of the team and AI is your team, which is Solver.
But the key is you want to be the leader. And so how to be a leader, you have to know how AI works, how machine learning works, and what are its advantages, and then what are its limitations.
But a lot of us are becoming slave to AI.
I agree.
Is that bad?
I mean, it's bad, but that doesn't have to be the case. Initially, you could be so enamored by the tool that you become, in effect, the term used is like a slave. You just let it make all your decisions. But if you say, it could help me a lot, but I'm the one who has to ultimately make a decision. So you test, in a different way. Is the AI giving me the right information or suggesting the right decision? An example of it is a radiologist using AI to analyze a medical screen. And then it tells the radiologist, there's something you should be worried about. There's something that might be cancerous that you're seeing. Well, then the trained radiologist takes a look, analyzes what AI has done, maybe suggests additional tests, and then considers those additional tests. That professional uses that information, but then uses their professional experience and checks AI, but then ultimately makes a decision about what to do for that patient.
So it's like your support system to take better decisions.
Yes, it's a support system. It's a real tool, but you have to be able to use that tool and use it as a tool and to make decisions, not have it make the decision for yourself.
To use it as a tool.
Yeah, work alongside AI. And in some cases, AI will be like an additional worker or replace a worker.
Yeah. Tell me something, like internet has evolved so much from Google to Claude. Is the traditional business degree dead that was 20, 30 years ago?
The traditional business degree that does not incorporate AI across the different business fields is not as useful as it used to be. I won't use the term dead because there's having the discipline knowledge, understanding the fundamentals of accounting, of marketing, of finance, but you have to take it to the next level and use the tools of the day. It's like saying, an accountant trained 30 years ago on an adding machine shouldn't use a computer. It used to be that for accountants, our university trains a lot of accountings. Accounting is one of the most popular major. It used to be thought, this was before Excel, but probably before your time, before Excel and Lotus 1-2-3 were the first electronic spreadsheets. The fear was that accountants would learn how to count and do spreadsheets and do it if they had an electronic spreadsheet doing the math for them and the calculations, doing the additions and the subtractions down a column or across a row, that accountants would use the capacity to think and do accounting properly. And now you say, that's crazy. You know, Excel is a tool that helps you do things faster, better, not make mistakes. The same thing now, if you ignore, say AI is going to make accountants useless. It's a tool that you can use to advance practice and improve practice, gain productivity, but it doesn't replace the human element. It enhances the productivity if you know how to use the tool and you know its advantages and limitations.
I think that's a big mindset that you need when you use AI. That's a change that we need, that it's a tool that helps improve productivity. I think that's the most important part.
Yeah, so that it's empowering for the individual instead of taking away their sense of agency and replacing them. It becomes a powerful enabling tool. And since the computing power is increased, the cost is relatively low right now. It really could be inclusive in the sense that it's widely accessible. And so it could help a lot of people with their economic mobility and their social mobility if they're able to use AI to enhance what they're capable of doing.
I want to talk about the perception of we Indians in terms of the studying abroad now. Most of us think that Ivy League is the only way to wealth. Is it like that? Can you tell more about that? Because Bryant University is what we see as the best ROI, return on investment.
Yes, we're top 1% return on investment.
So why is that mindset still so stuck, that Ivy League is only the process?
You know, it's interesting because we had just been talking about AI and that people, could be, worried with the new tools come, what was old and thought of is going to be lost and the world is going to change and everything's going to be bad. How does that relate to your question? It relates to the Ivy League and well-known elite institutions have been thought of as that's the only way to achieve certain high-level goals. And the reality, and this is across the world, but I'll focus on the U.S., is the U.S. has about 5,000 universities and colleges. Each one of them is different in some way, their mix of courses, how they deliver them, their campus setting or their use of online tools. They're not all the same, and they're not all, of equal value to everybody. It depends upon what your aspirations are, what your background is, And so you have to see what's the best institution for you. And you want an institution, I would argue that anybody wants an institution where their curriculum is changing with the times. And what do I mean by that? And an example of that right now, the leading example is if you're not integrating AI, the application of AI across all different fields, you're not preparing young people or students for the future. Because we're finding the highest paying employers are saying we're not going to hire a college graduate unless they have AI skills in the area they're going to be working. They're not hiring accounting firms, finance firms, marketing firms, and they're smart to do that because firms want to enhance productivity. They want to they want to enhance value to their employees and value that they provide to customers. And the tool that's going to enable that over the next decades is AI.
So it's a barrier to entry now?
It's a barrier to entry to high-paying jobs.
A lot of us Indians, for us, when the kid studies in the US education is like a generational debt. A lot of people take loans. A lot of people in India, a lot of things go into when they go study abroad. So what is your suggestion for them for a high yield investment, return on investment for them?
Relevant curriculum, a track record for graduates who earn strong incomes upon graduating, and making sure their particular interest is supported by that institution. And they'll be able to complete the degree. So there's a lot of factors that go into a return on investment. Yeah. Entry-level jobs, the progression once in the entry-level jobs, how likely are you to advance to achieve a much higher income. But there's also, people don't think about, if you enter a university or a college, that you're not going to stay in and graduate, and you've taken on debt and cost, and then you don't graduate, that's the lowest return on investment. So you want someplace that's going to satisfy your needs, support you. Yeah. You're going to be able to make it through. And then that's going to have the curriculum and training and education that's in demand by the employers. So right now we're talking about, for the highest paying jobs on graduation in the business fields, you're going to have to understand AI applications in that field and be an advanced, leader on that, because businesses right now have a lot of incumbent workers who have been in the workforce 10, 20 years. They're not well skilled in AI. So businesses are looking at young talent and new talent to have that AI training that helps them enhance what they're doing in AI. So I think as a student from India and you're concerned about ROI on your investment, which I absolutely think that you should be concerned, then you should think about, is their curriculum keeping up with what businesses are demanding? And I'm going to need to have a good job. And a lot of young people are using AI now just for their own benefit. They're excited by it, they're good at it, and then they don't want to come to university that says you can't use AI because that's like cheating on your exam. Yeah. It's not cheating on your exams, it's trying to use the current tools to do the best you can at what you're being asked to do. It's what you build on that AI that's really important and the value added. And so if you're getting an education where it says, okay, you're working alongside AI, if you're an accountant, an example of is an audit process. In the United States, there's certain standards to audit a publicly traded company in the United States. That's pretty, there are very set standards that you look at financial documents and evaluate if the company is meeting those standards when it's preparing its financial statements. AI could do that. If you have digitalized information about the company, it prepares income statements and a balance sheet that then gets reviewed in an audit process. But then you need an accountant to use that, what AI is producing, and say, are there red flags that AI has identified in those financial statements? I'm going to look at them and see, and then ask questions to who we're auditing to make sure that the company is meeting the standards, and then we could have an audited official documentation that the company files and that they want to have evaluated by a firm that has certified public accountants that does it. AI could go a long way and do the initial work, but you need a trained accountant to identify the troubling spots.
You need that supervision.
Right.
So in terms of, with all the problem solving speeding up with AI, at Bryant University, tell me something, what's the secret sauce that you use? Because in the coming times, human skills, ethics, and creative thinking, critical thinking, they become luxury. So how do you work on these?
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't think it's a luxury, the human skills. We emphasize a lot design thinking, because design thinking emphasizes empathy. What's the problem you're
Tell me more about design thinking, because it's very new to Indians.
Yeah, well, design thinking is focused on the problem and solving the problem in creative ways and looking at a range of possible options. Oftentimes you have a problem and you say, okay, I know the answer. And the answer is this because of prior experiences has been the answer. Kind of like AI works, right? Basically, And what a creative thinking does is say, there's a problem. What's a range of possibilities? Don't say no, say what's possible. Think about what you're trying to solve, who you're solving it for, what their need is, and what you want to have as an outcome. And to be creative about different ways to solve that problem. And then work through different elements. Usually it's in a team. So you yourself have a certain perspective, but maybe work with somebody who has a very different perspective. This could be people from 2 different countries, 2 different socioeconomic backgrounds, 2 different genders, and trying to look at a problem from their different perspective and see what the problem is, who it's going to affect, what are possible range of outcomes, and then analyze those outcomes. And don't lock into a solution. Play with it a little bit, explore the possibilities, do some more interviews. Process some more information, and that information can come from AI, but use that to solve a problem. And there's where the creativity and the human element comes in. And it's not just going to have the same answer as everybody else had in the past. And just think about the companies that have been created If Apple said, okay, we want to just replicate the phone and replicate, the standard phone from before the Apple was created, just do it cheaper. So let's do it at lower cost than that. It says, let's reinvent what a phone is. And then to say a phone isn't just for phone calls. A phone call is for, apps that could help you do a range of things. And then look where the smartphone is now. But if Apple had sat back and said, okay, how do we just take a standard, I'm looking at a standard phone because it used to be plugged in and it used to be very limited. But you say, maybe a phone doesn't have to be so limited. What could it do?
So they were thinking beyond that.
Yeah. I mean, think about driverless vehicles, and you're saying, okay, you always need a driver in a vehicle. But then you say, well, maybe you don't. If you have sensors on the car and you understand traffic patterns and what's the key elements of a car, the key element is safety. So you analyze how to have a driverless vehicle, but you maximize that this won't crash.
Yeah.
So the creativity, the design thinking is important for entrepreneurship, for creating businesses, for adding value to existing products and services. It's just not replicating the past. AI will say, based upon the past, this is what you should do. Where the human element comes in is, I want to look at things and see what's possible and how to achieve it, and how could I be creative, achieve it in ways that haven't been done before in the past.
Tell me something, how 99% of your students get jobs. And what's missing in that 1%?
Well, let's talk about the 99% first. I appreciate the aspirations for 100%. The 99% is because we're integrating what businesses are wanting in their graduates into our curriculum in real time. And we're focused on the student success. And our students, it's not only what they learn, it's how they learn. So they learn in team, they learn in projects. All our students in their freshman year have a 3-week period at the start of their second semester where they engage in a design thinking exercise. And that design thinking exercise is given to them by a nonprofit organization or by a corporate client. So for example, I won't give the name of the company, but one of the world's leading pharmacies went to the students and said, how can we get more young people into, to use our pharmacy, our storefront pharmacy? And so the students brainstorm and says, the first thing you should do is, you shouldn't call it a pharmacy because people think about it's only when you're sick that you go. And so who wants to show up at an in-store pharmacy when the only people there are people who are sick? So you say it's for wellness. It's for wellness. We'll help you keep well. And if you want to keep well and be nutritious, come to our storefront and we'll help you. It'll be educational. You could buy products and services, how to be beautiful, how to be healthy. Instead of you're sick, come here when you're sick. It's a total... But it doesn't mean they're selling much different things. They're presenting it differently. A financial services company wanted a team of our students, men and females, to say, how can we get more young women interested at an early age to have financial advice and starting investing early? Because usually men are on the internet in high school doing investment, but women are more like, I'm not going to do that. But how do you get more young women interested? So they can't use an AI tool to do it because that hasn't been done. So they're asking people who have empathy. When you say, why don't I like to go to one of our students says, why don't I like to go to the local pharmacy? Well, there's all old people there. It's all people who are sick. That's not me. And the same thing, young women who are going, they're not marketing to me. Companies, the way they present, it doesn't speak to me. But if then there's young women and men who know women saying, well, what would get my sister? What would get my girlfriend? What would get my wife to be more interested in financial investment? Then you're saying, oh yeah, this thing. And then you're brainstorming with others and you come up with a creative solution. And what these examples, I think, help us. These are students doing these projects for really big companies, and our companies want our students' insight. It's like AI is not going to generate that result for these companies. It's the human element adding to it. Plus, our students, they get excited. I'm excited. I'm the university president. Our students get excited in their freshman and say, business isn't boring. You're solving people's problems in creative ways, and you're working with others, and then you're presenting to pretty high-level people in corporations that are spending a lot of money then to implement your decision, and you're changing the world, in your own way. And if you have the power of AI to get all this information and analyze it, but then it's you who have the agency to problem solve with others and create something new, you're changing the world in your own way. That's powerful. And you can do it faster, better with AI at your fingertips.
I think that's your secret sauce to be the board leader in employment for 2024 while there are employment freeze in Silicon Valley. I think that's the secret sauce of Bryant University.
Yeah.
Design thinking.
Yeah, no, it goes beyond Bryant, but we tie the design thinking to entrepreneurship. We also to managing people, managing a diverse workforce, and using that to gain insights that you wouldn't if everybody was the same at that workforce. That's why I believe having students from all across the world. We have students from 50 different countries at Bryant University speaking many different languages with different perspectives. And that's what a college, a university should be.
Cultural integration.
You don't want to go, you should do something different and be exposed to different types of people and open up possibilities and learn from that and be a design thinker for the rest of your life, but also have these connections that you could draw upon. Why the 1%? Some people take a little longer to kind of figure things out. So they might have a range of possibilities, and we can't tell people, rush to a decision.
Some don't even want to get into a job at times.
Some people have family responsibilities. Some people have things that they're just going to delay.
They want to be in the startup mode or start something of their own, maybe.
Exactly.
Tell me something, what do you like the most about Indian students?
What I like about Indian students is, the Indian students that come to the United States, come to Bryant University. There's a couple elements from what we talked about. One is, they're not just going, I need to go to the Ivy League. If I don't go to the Ivy League, I'm not coming. So they've seen, that special sauce that Bryant University. Yeah. So they're kind of different thinkers, and just like, I'm only going because it's prestigious. And, I'm going to be able to wear a T-shirt that says, Harvard University. Or they want to be unheroes. I mean, you have your T-shirt. I'm looking at that T-shirt. So you want to be, you're a hero if you go to an Ivy League. You're kind of an unhero, and you're doing it your own way. Another is just to go to a different environment. Is you're open to different possibilities, and that's a challenge. You're open to challenges, and just by being there. And then when they come to campus, they engage with others. They do different things, and they figure out ways to connect. An example is a freshman from Asia who I met with just one-on-one, and I asked him, does he like Bryant? It's a big change. He had never been to the United States before. He says, I love Bryant. I said, what do you love best about it? He says, well, I'm on the rugby club, and I love playing rugby. And my first, an orientation, I joined the rugby club. And these are my best friends, and they've adopted me, and they're all helping me. And they're checking in, are you all right? What do you need? What do you need? It's being able to help others, but more importantly, to be able to get help and be open-minded to letting people help you and work with you and learn from each other, and then be reciprocal relationships with people, different types of people that you've never been exposed to. So.
Tell me something, like US has, a lot of Silicon Valley leaders are Indians now.
Yes.
US sort of love Indians in a lot of places now.
Yes.
What do you think about Indian students? What do you like the most? What is their mindset that you admire, or something that a lot of people can learn from?
Well, a lot. I think they're aspirational in a positive way. They're aspirational for themselves and also for their country. And I think that's very powerful because it's beyond yourself. They're very family oriented, and they're respectful of their family. And I think in America, we've moved away from that respect for the family and knowing where you came from. So I think that is really important. And they're just, they care. They look you in the eye, that they're warm people, and they want to get to know you. It's not just like coming in for a meeting or for an interview and saying, okay, let's get to work. It's like, let's have some tea, let's have a sandwich. Let's make sure you have the right water, and let's make sure it's not just a transaction. It's a relationship.
So it's more welcoming.
Yes.
Tell me, you also speak about that a business student should learn arts and an art student should learn business. What is the thought behind that?
It relates to this design thinking. If you expose yourself to different subject matters.
So arts for you is an extension of design thinking?
In the sense that arts is kind of when you think of creativity, you usually think about it, a painter or a sculptor. Yeah. It helps you, that aspect of your brain, of your mindset, doing the arts or understanding the arts, or how an artist thinks, or going to a museum and trying to figure out what it represents, why somebody created, why you are attached to that, why you think it's beautiful, or why you're challenged or upset from that art, what it's doing. So it helps you with your empathy and understanding how emotions are driven not just by words or by people, but by things around you. And if you're going to be a good marketer, or if you're going to be a good manager, or if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to understand people's emotions. It's not just about your mind thinking, but it's your smell, it's your feel, it's your, there's so many different elements. And if you just use one part of your mindset, you're not going to be as creative. You're not going to be able to, understand different people. It brings a different side of you. It's why you read books that are about things that you haven't thought about, or people you haven't thought about, and you read fiction because it's a world that you're trying to understand what the author is trying to create. It uses a different mind, exercises the mind, and I think that makes you really understand that broader perspective and be able to design things much better than if you just are strict, I'm an accountant or I'm an engineer and I'm going to get, all my courses should be engineering courses. It brings in that other element, because eventually if all you're doing is what's in that field, AI is going to do that.
I think Steve Jobs also emphasized a lot on this, about arts, calligraphy.
Yes.
He went to this school.
Apple started with the Mac being different fonts. Steve Jobs was just obsessed with different fonts. And that Apple, and it used to be computers when they presented words, it would be, you didn't have choice of fonts. You had to have the same font.
Same font, yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. I think it was a great conversation to understand design thinking and also all the aspects of US education system. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed talking to you.
Same here. Thank you so much for being on the show.